It's obvious that all of you watch my videos because you want to hear about roller coasters, but not enough channels dedicate videos to other amusement rides, so today I will be ranking the top 10 drop towers I've personally ridden. As with my other countdown lists, this one will be updated as I ride more and more drop towers in the future, but I did want to share with you my 10 favorites as of now. Please take note that I have not ridden a ton of drop towers and none outside of North America. I also have limitations as to what should be considered a drop tower and what shouldn't. For example, I don't personally consider the Tower of Terror attractions at the Disney parks to be drop towers, but I'm still going to include them in here since I know most of you do. Before we dive into the list, I'd love it if you could leave a like and comment on the video and subscribe to the channel. These videos take a lot of time and effort to make, so the support I receive is appreciated greatly. Now I think we're ready to begin, so without further ado, here are my top 10 drop towers I've ridden, starting with some honorable mentions. So I wanted to give some honorable mentions for drop towers in America that I have not experienced, particularly at parks I have been to. Firstly, I've been to Six Flags Great Adventure, King's Dominion, and the StratosFEAR Tower in Las Vegas, and I regret not experiencing the drop towers at their respective parks. All of them likely would have found their way on this list and are on my to-do list for sure. I also didn't bother riding the S&S drop towers at Six Flags Fiesta Texas and Lagoon, but to be honest, it probably wouldn't affect this list all that much. I've ridden similar, if not replica, drop towers at other parks, and I'm not even a huge fan of the S&S towers to begin with. One last thing, I have ridden the Intamin Giant Drop Tower at Canada's Wonderland, but was pretty disappointed by its drop. For that reason, it would have placed at the number 11 spot in this list, not in the top 10. My guess is that the smaller Intamin Giant Drops are actually better than the larger ones, since that rule can apply to most drop towers anyways. With these caveats out of the way, let's actually get into the top 10. Number 10, downtime at lake compounds. Compared to the other S&S drop towers out there, downtime is actually quite a bit shorter, but I still rank it higher than most for a couple of reasons. One thing I like about the attraction is the theming. It's rather loose, but it's still something that most parks wouldn't bother doing. The queue has some minor clockwork theming, but most notably you hear a clock at the top of the tower right before the drop, and it really adds in some anticipation. While you're up there, you have a breathtaking view of your surroundings, and what's great about this view is that it doesn't matter what way you are facing. Whether you're facing the Green Mountains, or the lake, or miles of trees, it's really quite pretty. Following this, the drop is just okay. I don't really love S&S drop tower drops, but it's fine because downtime is notable in several other ways. Number 9, Power Tower at Cedar Point. One of the few S&S drop towers I really do enjoy, Power Tower is one of Cedar Point's signature non-coaster rides. Before we talk about what it does well, it may be important to note that you can also lump Dominator at Dorney Park in here too, because that ride is pretty similar to Power Tower. The main difference is obviously its location and also that it's 100 feet shorter, but that doesn't matter too much because it rides about the same. Regardless, I wanted to highlight Power Tower in particular because this one does a couple things very well. First of all, the launch is pretty solid. I actually ranked this in the top 10 for that launch, not really the drop. Power Tower launches you up to the top with a fantastic view of Lake Erie and the rest of Cedar Point. It's a view that really has you pause time and say, wow, I'm actually at Cedar Point right now, this is crazy. So it's a pretty magical ride in that way, and it's also a fun time overall. Number 8, Demon Drop at Dorney Park. This drop tower is almost part coaster, so by no means is it a traditional drop tower. Demon Drop is very strange, and it's the only ride of its kind left operating in the US. Unlike most drop towers, Demon Drop does actually load riders into their own individual vehicles, which by itself helps this ride achieve its status as a roller coaster credit to some. Following the boarding process, you are taken up an elevator lift hill before being pushed over this bottomless pit. Honestly, this is terrifying because it looks like you could just fall through, but the ride does hold you over for a couple seconds. Following this pause above the drop, you do drop vertically and then onto your back. What other drop towers other than the Intamin first gen drop towers can you end up on your freaking back? It is so weird. And actually, it does coast following this all the way to the break, so again, if you're counting credits, this attraction may be of interest. Demon Drop isn't really that intense, certainly not as intense as I expected, but because it's so weird and unique, of course I had to include it on the list. Number 7, Hershey Tripple Tower at Hershey Park. Here's a set of drop towers that I actually find to be pretty underrated, and I say set of towers because it's actually 3 freestanding towers side by side that all vary in height. The Kisses Tower is the shortest, the Hershey's Tower is the tallest, and the Reese's Tower stands in between. Now, I believe they all have the same top speed, but I only rode the Hershey's one myself, which is the tallest of the 3. This had a really powerful launch, which is actually why it's ranking so high on this list. I put Power Tower on this list for that same reason, so like that ride, the Hershey Towers don't have too great of a drop. But man, that launch caught me off guard. It is far more intense than Power Towers. And it's evident that the Hershey Triple Towers aren't your traditional S&S drop towers. They have a different look to them in both the structure and seating arrangement. But overall, this is not a ride worth skipping. If you find yourself at Hershey Park, I'd 100% recommend trying it out. Number 6, Mega Drop at the San Diego County Fair. I haven't been to too many fairs and carnivals, but my local one is one of the largest in North America, and they have one hell of a drop tower there. Standing 120 feet in the air, Mega Drop isn't the tallest drop tower in the world, but its drop packs a serious punch. Now, it really doesn't last for too long, but you fall faster than gravity at a very intense rate, and this is all just before it catches you at the last second. Another thing is, I love the view at the top outlooking the nearby lagoon and or beach, so this combined with the uber intense drop makes this a really crazy drop tower that if you find yourself at the San Diego County Fair for whatever reason, it's definitely worth doing. Number 5. Larson/Arm Drop Towers. Currently, I've ridden 3 of these: StratosFEAR at Canobie's, X-Scream at Waldameer, and Drop Tower at Jillian's Wonderland Pier in New Jersey. All of these actually vary in height. StratosFEAR is 148 feet tall, X-Scream is 140 feet tall, and Drop Tower is somewhere between 120 and 130 feet. Funny enough, the one at Jillian's Wonderland Pier is my favorite despite it being the shortest. I find that one to be the most intense of the 3 and the view is amazing, but they all virtually are the same, so I'm still lumping them together. I do find this interesting though because it holds true to the smaller drop towers out there being better than the larger ones. I know the coming drop towers on this list wouldn't really reflect that, but just take my word for it. I have to reiterate how crazy these drop towers truly are. They are very, very intense and don't give you time to brace at the top either. The second you reach your max height, they immediately fall at a very high intensity. Because of these things, this is a top 5 drop tower I've ridden, and it's just crazy. Number 4. Lex Luthor Drop of Doom at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Attached to the tower of Superman Escape from Krypton, Lex Luthor is an outstanding drop tower. It's a ride that I try to get on every visit to the park, which is something you can't exactly say about most drop towers. Now, I know some enthusiasts like to complain about this ride being forceless, but I have never once found that to be the case, even in the slightest. This ride is uber intense, and you build more and more speed the further down you go. This is achieved because the tower stands at a whopping 400 feet in the air, making it the second tallest drop tower in the world. One of my favorite things about Lex Luthor is the suspenseful audio. At the top of the tower, this is what you hear.
Today your life changes forever, and this may very well be the high point of your insignificant existence.
This soundtrack helps build anticipation for the crazy stratasized drop that follows. The view is also amazing, particularly on the side facing the freeway. All things considered though, I do love this drop tower so much, and it's one of my favorite non-coaster rides in the world. Number 3. Falcons Fury at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Just slightly edging out Lex Luthor, Falcons Fury is less intense, but it makes up for that in a pretty awesome way. At the top of this drop tower, one of the tallest freestanding drop towers on Earth may I add, your seats rotate back into a vertical position. Then you drop 335 feet facing the freaking ground. It's pretty dang scary, but I absolutely love how different it is and how weird of a sensation it is. Falcons Fury is widely considered to be the best freestanding drop tower in the world, and after riding it for my first time in December 2018, I can definitely understand where people are coming from. Personally, if I could change one thing, it would be to make it a bit more forceful, but other than that, it's a fantastic drop tower. And if we're going by what I personally classify as a drop tower, this would place number 1 on the list, but there are other dark ride-esque drop tower hybrids that I'm ranking a little bit higher. Number 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout at Disney's California Adventure. One of the best dark rides at California Adventure, most do consider it a drop tower technically because of its sequence of drops. These drops are all fantastic and give riders some awesome airtime. It's very sustained, and I would even say some of the moments can be considered ejector. In between these drops, there are rooms that display awesome theming that keep the story going, and I should have mentioned earlier that this is a storytelling attraction. I won't talk about it much because I don't want to give out any spoilers, but it's great and consistent with the ride. I also love the climax of this ride. Who doesn't? I mean, it's where you get to the top of the drop tower and just outlook all of the park. It was an amazing retheme of a ride that we'll talk about in a second, so let's get into that number 1 spot. Number 1. Twilight Zone Tower of Terror at Disney's California Adventure. So unfortunately, Tower of Terror is technically defunct, and its retheme was Guardians of the Galaxy. That said, there's a virtually identical version still operating at Disney's Hollywood Studios in Florida, so you can kinda lump that in here if you've ridden that one. I have very fond memories of Tower of Terror. While I love the chaotic feel of Guardians, there's something about the timeless theme of the old version. Everything Guardians of the Galaxy does well, this did well, but the theming was so well done here. Whether it was the interior, the exterior of the building, there's just so much to love. Honestly, I can't wait to experience the Florida version this year because the nostalgia is really gonna hit hard, I just know it. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my top 10 drop towers I've personally experienced. These truly are great rides if they're done right, and for that I'd love to hear about what your favorite drop towers are down in the comments. Also, a like, comment, and subscription would mean the world to me. Thanks again for watching everyone, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye guys.